This is Maestro with a Faction War series between the Space Marines and the Orks. Our first player is going to be Asmondeus, playing as the Tech Marine, shooty Space Marine ranged hero with a gun for every occasion and the ability to repair vehicles. Next up, it's going to be Dark Hero, playing as his signature Apothecary. This is a healing commander, starts out in melee, has a targeted heal and a passive heal aura. Next up, going to be Lindonin, playing as the Force Commander, tanky melee hero who can buff with Battlecry and disrupt with Battlecry. Their opponents, going to be a bunch of Orks. We're going to start off with Noisy, playing as the Freebrooders, Ork Warboss. Tanky melee hero, lots of health regeneration with War Gear, gap closing, and disruption. Next up, it's going to be Buggers, otherwise known as Best Noob, playing as the Mech Boy. Oh, what a look that is on this Mech Boy. Teleporting Ork ranged commander with the ability to repair vehicles. And then finally, it's going to be Assman, also known as Hunter, playing as yet another Ork Warboss. Now then, first game on our series is going to take place on Estia Province. This series, I believe, is actually only a best of 3. So that means that it's a maximum of 3 games, and whichever team wins 2 games is the winner. As you know, most Faction War series are actually played out as a best of 5, so I'm not entirely sure what the reason is why this one is only a best of 3, but, you know, my best guess is just time constraints. Maybe it was just in a situation, maybe it was late in the day, and they weren't sure if everybody would have the time to stick around if the series did end up going to a full 5 games. Meanwhile, though, as far as our series we've got here, it looks like, I don't know, Buggers either lost a unit already, or maybe he just didn't buy one. But, you know, we've actually got very, very stacked lineups on both sides. All of these players are quite good. Some probably still better than others, but I would say all of these players have, at least at some point, been high-level players in this game. Some very, very good now. Some, to be honest, a little past their prime, but certainly still very, very good. This is a high-level Faction War series that we are getting here today. Scouts will be in cover there, shooting at the Mech Boy. In the long run, that is a losing fight for them. They will just bleed models there, while not really achieving too much in return, especially even once the Mech Boy feels like he's being threatened. He'll just teleport away like that. Mech Boy just does have a lot of mobility. I recently did some checks on the mobility of the teleporting commanders in this game, and they all roughly have about a teleport that costs about 30 or 35 energy, with a cooldown that ranges either from 10 to 12 seconds. So it's a lot of mobility that Mech Boy gets. Wow, Apothecary from Dark Riku actually walking straight into the Luda. I mean, he was looking to tie them up. Tactical Marines did get there, but the problem with just going straight up to any setup team, any suppression weapon, is that they do a lot more damage the closer you get to them. So at long range, you don't actually take a lot of damage, and it's more just about the control that it exerts through the suppression. But if you really just try to straight up charge a suppression team, most units are just going to get burned down. So a lot of DACA coming out of here from Noisy. We'll be scaring Asmondeus off the field, as we do see double shooters, very traditional Ork build. And we're seeing some Ludas as well. We've seen Ludas already. Ludas out of Best Noob, known as Bugger here. All right, Sluggers right here. Looks like they were first looked like they were engaging the Apothecary, then they wanted to run past, but they realized they would be getting into melee with double Tactical Marines. And double Tactical Marines are actually tanky enough and do enough melee damage that that's not actually a fight that a single squad of Sluggers wants. Like, the most optimistic thing that they could hope for would be to proc special attacks to knock them down, but if they don't, it's actually a pretty clearly losing fight for the Sluggers. Sluggers certainly do a lot of damage, but not quite known for their melee superiority the way Howling Banshees are. And they actually can be overwhelmed with Tactical Marines in the right circumstances. And definitely having 2 Tactical Marines against 1 Slugger is definitely circumstances that favor the Tactical Marines. Here we'll even see some Sluggers get focused down a lot. They try to approach, but once they got into melee, they're already at like 20% of their hit points. And again, they're in melee against units that they don't even necessarily beat. So this will be a 1 engagement for our Space Marine players, pushing the Ork players back. Double cap is actually held by the Space Marine players at this time, but they are a little bit behind in terms of victory points. Wow, I'm actually really surprised how much Noisy is content to just walk these shooter boys back. They're just going to be taking damage from the Tactical Marines. They will lose models in the process. I'm honestly not even sure what he buys with this over not just straight up full retreating. I guess he wants to re-engage with the War Boss right here with the damage coming from the remaining shooter boys. He's lost some models, but with the way shooter boys work, a lot of their damage is concentrated into just a few models. Those big shooters doing most of the damage, or a significant portion of the damage. There's also the knob, and then a relatively low amount of damage is actually in the remaining models that have the regular shooters. So Warboss coming back out here for Noisy with this Orky Cutlass that you get as part of the Freebooters DLC. That DLC, so long ago. Pretty sure it actually came free with the game, and that was also an on-release DLC. In fact, in the original Dawn of War 2 Retribution campaign, that Warboss, I forget his name, but that Warboss has that skin by default, and I don't even think you can change it out. So mostly only differs from the pre-Retribution Warboss skins, which is kind of the more standard one. Eventually, though, I think Noisy will, in the end, lose this fight. There's just way too much range damage for him to deal with. He's got a tack squad. He is suppressing one tack squad, and he wants to threaten it with these Burn of Sluggers. Might take a model, and that might make all this almost worth it, but he's still losing so many models in response. Does get a tack model. He's actually looking for the whole squad. My God. Wow. So well managed by Noisy in that engagement. It wasn't an overall one engagement for him, but he managed to just get the win that he needed out of it, which was, like, he lost so many Orc models in response. That was incredibly calculated by Noisy. He lost so many Orc models, but he managed to just read it right, realizing his prize there, getting the wipe on that tack squad, which was actually amazing, and I would not have seen that coming. Shotgun Scouts, meanwhile, they are being tied up by the Warboss in melee, and they're in a position now where they're actually going to be really oppressed by the Warboss, whether they are in melee with him or whether they're in range with him, since this is now a ranged Warboss. Enhanced Custom Shooter, giving 33.3 piercing DPS, which is a little bit more than doubles, I believe, his starting range damage. The melee damage, I believe, is only slightly better. In fact, it might even just be equal, but my memory of the statistics says that 47.5 is actually slightly better than his standard chain axe. But it's just more about the range damage that he actually gets with this. And, of course, the Shoot 'em Good ability. Very similar to the full auto ability from the Apothecary's Customized Stormbolter, which is also an upgrade that we see. Customized Stormbolter out of the Apothecary. Something that in particular I think would be very, very good against the Warboss. I mean, it's really good against any single entity, so it's good against commanders in general. But I think the control that you get with it against someone like the Warboss is very, very important to trying to contain him. So Ranged Blob right here from the Space Marines, sitting in cover, in general, I think is something that's really going to favor him, favor them. They really burned down the Warboss there. Again, double Tactical Marines. We've got the Apothecary Customized Stormbolter. We even have the Mastercrafted Bolter out of the Tech Marine. That's also something that can provide yet more control against the Warboss. And it's important because we've got double Warboss. We've also got a Whirlwind. Talk about more control. This is something that can not only control the Warboss, but really control entire Orc armies. In fact, we're having control coming out on both sides. We've got a Weird Boy out from Buggers, otherwise known as Best Noob. A lot of control with the Warp Vomit that we saw used recently. Meanwhile, control, disruption, and damage coming out of the Devastator Marine Plasma Squad. They've got a few Orcs in their range. They'll shoot off a shot, but this one will miss. Acquired there. Oh my God, unfortunately, friendly Weird Boy shots will actually do quite a number on those Sluggers, while the Looters will be tying up this squad of Scouts. Those Scouts actually in so much trouble. I mean, I think, yeah, they'll retreat. If they get out of there without losing a model, that's incredibly lucky. Meanwhile, long-range Plasma Devastator and knocking over the Looters. On the other side of this map, we are going to see some Sluggers chasing down a Force Commander. Force Commander getting relatively low on hit points. I don't think he'll be finished off by the Storm Boys. Storm Boys are just so notoriously bad at killing in retreat, and indeed that won't happen. In spite of, just how much damage the Storm Boys do. They actually do a crazy amount of damage. And they're focusing more on the generator. Soon they might turn on the Assault Marines. Assault Marine's going to jump away, not even wanting that fight against the combination of the Storm Boys and the Warboss. They're also Sluggers backing them up from behind. And this is looking like, I mean, right now, certainly a lot of Space Marine being pushed back, but here's some support from the from the Space Marine range block. We've got some attacks, we've got an Apothecary, we've got full auto on the War Boss, and that will force him to retreat there. I think he will not go down. Does also have this Boss Pole increasing the health of nearby squads, as well as giving them a suppression resistance by 50%. Meanwhile, Force Commander is actually upgraded to the Power Fist, even though we don't see too many vehicles yet out on the side of the Orks, mainly just this War Truck. But, I mean, Power Fist does have applications other than just being good against vehicles. It is very good as just a burst damage weapon, since the Force Commander does attack so slowly with it, but that's because each individual attack is incredibly powerful. So it's very, very good for sniping models in general, really on any squad, which also means it can be very, very good for getting kills on commanders or something like a Weird Boy, as long as he can get into range. Meanwhile, on this side of the map, Generator Bash will be occurring at the hands of our Space Marine players. Lindonin pushing in with his Flamer Tactical Marine squad. He's supported by Dark Riku. No Flamer on his squad. Weird Boy, not Weird Boy. It's going to be the Storm Boys jumping in. They actually initiate with Bomber Boys, but they initiate into such a huge blob. They're being shot at, I think, by some Stern Guard veterans with Hellfire rounds, and they really just lose too much damage to that. Assman is actually calling that he is being doubled here. Trying to hold the line at the moment, though, as much as he can, trying to mitigate the bleed. We do see that he's not getting suppressed nearly as quickly by the Devastator Marine Squad because he does have that Boss Pole, but it doesn't negate suppression entirely, so if he does stand around in it long enough, he will get suppressed. So he is being doubled, tried to fight it off as best as he could, and at least he didn't take too many losses. What is Best Noob doing? Triple Ludas. Now, Best Noob... Oh my god, Best Noob. And that's also Best Noob going down right there. Now, Best Noob, at the moment, is probably the best 1v1 player in this game. Which means colloquially, we often just say he's probably the best player in the game at the moment. But in 3v3, it's a little bit more questionable. He hasn't won the recent 3v3 tournament. Some people also just say that he just kind of memes and messes around in 3v3, and especially with something like a triple Luda build, no shootas, dead mech boy in a position that I don't know where he was, it does kind of make me wonder if Best Noob is not taking this entirely seriously. As good of a player as he is. All right, then, Las Cannon Devastator trying to get a shot on the War Truck, but a very, very timely full auto from the War Boss on the lead model of the Devastator squad does prevent him from getting that shot off. And this is actually looking like it's probably going to be a one engagement for our Orc players. Force Commander does get some disruption from the special attack with Battle Cry, but he might be going down in retreat here. Indeed, he will. Oh man, when you get a Force Commander sync kill by a Sluggo, which was actually interrupted by the Burna upgrade, right in the middle of it. That's pretty funny. Engagement might not actually be over here, and even though the Force Commander was taken down, it'll be a pretty quick revive by this Apothecary here, and that initial engagement might have been won by the Orcs, but this re-engage looking like it's going in favor of our Space Marine players. A War Boss, he'll be fine, actually. I was wondering if maybe a little bit of force melee from the Apothecary. Ooh, he won't be fine. There we see that snipe potential of the Force Commander. I mean, that was a War Boss who still actually had something like 100 hit points left. But that, I'm pretty sure that the Power Fist, it does say that it does 85 heavy melee DPS, but he does actually attack so slowly that I'm pretty sure the damage of a single swing of the Power Fist is actually quite a bit higher than 85. I would have to check, but honestly, I'm going to venture a guess and say it's probably like in the mid-hundreds, like 140, 150, and that's something I'll check. I'll even see if I can check it in between the games here. All right, then. So Stern Guard veterans shooting with some Kraken bolts at the generators. They are pretty much uncontested at the moment, so they will... And again, we see them focus on the power node. Focus on the power node. And normally, I like the idea of focusing on the generators first, but I guess there is one rationale I could think of for focusing on the power node, even in situations where you won't be able to get the decap. Ooh, Tech Marine probably going to go down here. Yeah, really got to respect the Orc melee kills on retreat. Is that it forces your opponent to buy a power node, which is already more expensive than a generator, before they can replace any further generators. All right, then. Predator is being chased down. Plasma cannon shots going in. I don't know if they have enough control to stop these knobs for very long. Shotgun blast comes out of the scouts, but that'll just be temporary. Knobs getting up again, but they will be knocked over again by the Devastator Marines. But the Sluggers are so close that the Devastators, those Plasma Devastators, will have to get out of there. Meanwhile, we're going to see more disruption coming out of the Whirlwind that's actually in a huge amount of trouble. It's being chased after by the Knobs. I think the Knobs will finish it off. It's getting pretty close, but the Knobs, they're still chasing after it. They just need a few more swings. They can't seem to initiate the swings, and finally they do, and they will finish the Whirlwind off. Now they'll look for further prizes. I think at this point the Knobs need to go. They've gotten their prize without losing a single model. At this point, I think they stand to lose more than they actually would gain. And this actually ended up being a pretty perfect play out of Noisy. He got a kill with it, got the kill on the Whirlwind, and didn't lose a single model on the Knob Squad. So important plays out of him. All right, meanwhile, Looted Tank is going to be shooting at some Space Marines right here. We do have a dead Orc Commander, but also a dead Space Marine Commander. The Ludas out of Best Noob. And he even has... Okay, he's got a beamy def gun on his mech boy. Does he have any beamy def guns? No, he doesn't have any beamy def guns on the regular Ludas. Alright, Weird Boy is by himself. What are they going to do here? Shotgun Scout's going to knock him over. We're going to see Devastators set up. They're going to start charging up. They're going to shoot a grenade at the same time. Does some nice burst damage, but I think a retreat on the Weird Boy will just get him out of there alive. Oh, maybe not. The further disruption. Oh my God! If that's absolutely incredible. That's such a play out of our Space Marine players. I really thought a retreat would have saved him, but getting the Plasma Devastator knockback on retreat allowed the further follow-up damage out of the Stern Guard veterans, and we actually saw the Weird Boy go down there. That was crazy. So ranged Terminators coming out here from Asmondeus. They may be ranged Terminators, but they're coming in looking for some melee fights. And of course, although they're ranged Terminators, they still do about 30 or 33 heavy melee DPS. They're going to straight up wipe the Ludas, and they'll do it with a sync kill. Very, very nice, and I love the finishing off with the Storm Bolter shot. Very, very nice. Meanwhile, this war truck is so close. It's so close here. This is Noisy with this war truck. I feel like he should lose his war truck. Like, I feel like a melter shot. Yeah, one more melter shot. Okay, finally we have the war truck going down. That was very, very bold out of the war truck. It was, I don't think it was ever going to live that engagement, going that close to the Land Raider Redeemer. The Land Raider Redeemer may not necessarily be known for its great anti-vehicle damage, but it does do some. It's got that multi-melt on top. And a war truck is made out of papier-mâché. All right, Looted Tank. Meanwhile, Looted Tank not in a great state itself. This could be a Looted Tank going down. Force Commander, I think he was looking for it. I don't know. He's trying to do Flesh over Steel. Doesn't need it. We've got a flanking Las Cannon. Las Cannon's going to go down itself. But I think the trade of the Las Cannon for the Looted Tank is a positive one in favor of the Space Marine players. All right, so it's a double cap for our Space Marine players at this time. We will see some generators taken down, neutral generators even. Doesn't even want to let them get. But here is some Love Dadaka into some rocks. What is the effect of this going to be? Oh no, the rock's just barely missing. Those not missing. That will be some wipe squads right there. And although it didn't look like such a clean Love Dadaka into rocks, eventually the rocks after that looked very nice. And despite such a nice rocks, that is a concede by the Orc players, and that'll be our Space Marine players going up 1-0 in this series. Let's now move on to game number 2, and I'll check that War Boss stuff. Game number 2 in our best of 3 series will take place on Cathari Ruins. Our Space Marine players will stay exactly the same. Asman will be reprising his role as the Tech Marine, Dark Riku once again on his signature Apothecary, and Lindonin will be on the Force Commander yet again. For some reason, these heroes not targeting correctly. On the other team, though, we're going to see a few people sub in and sub out. Assman is still here, but he will be playing as the Orc Mech Boy this time. Crewfinity will be stepping in for Best Noob. He will be playing as the Commando Knob, sneaky Orc with bombs, guns, and knives to kill you all sneaky-like. And finally, Brawler will be coming in for... Who else was it? I forgot already. But Brawler's going to be coming in as the War Boss. So, in between the two games, I did, a little fact-checking. Warboss does indeed get improved melee damage even when choosing the enhanced custom shooter. His melee damage increases by about 5 DPS from about 42.5 to 47.5. Force Commander, meanwhile, his Power Fist actually does 170 damage per swing, but only comes to 85 DPS, kind of just showing you how slowly he attacks, but sometimes those long windups and that big burst damage on that Power Fist does work out well, especially in that situation last game, sniping that War Boss on retreat. So then, oh yeah, one other thing was that I accidentally had the wrong logo for the Space Marines, but that's fixed up all this time. And yes, I know you might be thinking, oh, why don't I just fix that? Well, logos are added in not afterwards, but they're actually just used as an overlay while recording. And it's kind of my own personal decision. I'm like, do I want to recast that whole game for 18 minutes? Not entirely sure. Maybe theoretically possible that I could even fix it after the fact. We'll see. Maybe we'll give that a try. Anyway, for now, let's actually just go back into our game. Gonna be the War Boss, stepping on the Force Commander right there. Gonna use the Now I'm Angry ability to get in melee with both squads of Tactical Marines. One of them should be able to focus to move back and kite him. Oh, but one of those is not actually a squad of Tactical Marines. It was a squad of Scouts. 2 squads of Tactical Marines still chasing off all of these Orc units, though, and it's going to be Brawler in full retreat here, and I don't think he's the only one, because these aren't all his units. Some of these also belong to Crewfinity. Force Commander... Alright, looks like he'll get out alive. He'll get out okay. Sluggers will be approaching these Tactical Marines right here, but another squad of Tactical Marines, in fact, 2 other squads of Tactical Marines, just going to be burning them down. This is a clear advantage for the Space Marine players, yeah, because it's like even if the Sluggers get into melee, 3 squads of attacks easily overwhelm them there, even if they can get a lucky special attack proc. In the top, it does look like our Orc players also having a good time of it. We are going to see Mech Boy teleporting in to tie up the Tactical Marines. Even though he doesn't do a whole lot of melee damage, he will just shut down the range damage of the Tactical Marines, and that will allow the Shooter Boys to really just declare open season on them. Shooter Boys now are going to have to deal with this Tech Marine. Tech Marine will be suppressed by the Looter Squad, and of course with the follow-up damage from the Sluggers as well, that will be the Tech Marine off the field. But man, this Tactical Marine squad really toughing it out here. Unfortunately, eventually the Mech Boy will have to teleport away by Assman. The squad of the Tactical Marines, they will retreat out of there so that they can heal up before they do lose any models. Victory points pretty even at the moment, 482 to 469. All right, then, War Boss, meanwhile, getting out of there. Pretty low on hit points. A little unfortunate that he isn't here to engage with the rest of the army, but we do have the Pain Boy. Pain Boy definitely can work as he can actually work as a melee tank. He's a melee unit, starts out with 700 hit points. If he uses his heal on himself, he can tank more damage, or maybe it's more ideal. Probably more ideal to use it on the Sluggers. I actually can't tell there whether it was used on the Sluggers, but the Sluggers will eventually have to go. And this fight is still kind of up in the air in terms of who is going to win it and who is not. Oh no! The Pain Boy goes down. I mean, I don't know. That might have just been an overcommitment to trying to win that fight. One squad of Tactical Marines really low here, only at 1 model. Will eventually retreat, though, so at least not managing to lose that entire squad. And as long as that entire squad is not lost, I don't think the losses are as bad for the Space Marines as they are for the Orcs losing that Pain Boy entirely. Meanwhile, Force Commander is still here, and we definitely saw some value out of this Chainsword and Storm Shield, giving the Defend ability 50% resistance to range damage. Of course, there's also a speed decrease, but I mean, if we're talking about Tactical Marines, certainly the Tactical Marines that he benefits, it's really not that big of a deal. Of course, it makes it a little bit harder for the Force Commander to get in, but being so much tougher kind of makes it not too bad. Grenades will go in. They will completely miss, as we do just see a retreat from Assman. So there definitely have been losses occurring on the sides. Well, really on both sides. A little bit more so our Orc players, that it feels, at least in terms of that one Pain Boy going down. But overall, this definitely is favoring our Orc players. We see this Generator Bash happening. It's a triple cap at the moment. A triple cap taking down those VPs pretty fast in favor of the Orcs, and we see a victory point lead of 469 to 363. The map has been painted red for the most part. So Orcs looking pretty good in this game. Best Noob may be one of the best players in this game, but if he was kind of memeing around a bit, it might actually be that a try-hard Crewfinity or Brawler might actually be doing a little bit more to really help the Orcs do better in this game. All right, then we are going to see Tactical Marines. Yeah, they're going to have to go there. Even though under normal circumstances, engaging the Shooter Boys in melee is a good fight for them, they're just going to be taking too much damage from this upgraded Mech Boy with the Daka Big Shooter. This one is just strictly a damage increase. Strictly a damage increase, no utility, no ability coming with it. Increases his damage from 25 DPS to 37.8. May not sound like much, but I do think it's worth it. You really just... It's just a lot more damage in the end, even if an increase of 12 might not seem like that much. Oh, man. Slugga's trying to get into melee, and although a lot of things are working out for the Orcs, they have to be if they've got the victory point lead. One thing that doesn't seem to be working out too well for them is the Sluggas trying to approach these massive tack blobs. And the Chainsword and Storm Shield, also something that is now really starting to throw a wrench. Oh my god, this Commando Nop's going to go down. There's just so many tacks here. Chainsword and Storm Shield really throwing a wrench in the Orcs' plans. I mean, just the way the matchup works. Oh my god, another squad of Sluggas in trouble. Tactical Marines are by default so much more tanky than Shooter Boys. And especially if they manage to find a good spot of cover, they can really just out-trade the Shooter Boys, even though the Shooter Boys actually do a bit more damage than the Tactical Marines, or at least an individual squad of Tactical Marines. But when you've got this many tac squads bunched up, they're gonna massively out-trade the Orcs, especially with the support of that Defend ability from the Force Commander. I mean, Defend... They don't even get suppressed by the Ludas. Aiming What's That won't work on these, and they're just taking so much less range damage. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Orcs are going to be able to do about this in the end, too. So here's one of the answers, the Weird Boy. My god, the Force Commander just taking a stroll through the back lines of the Orcs. This is honestly kind of ridiculous. So eventually, though, part of what I actually don't like about this play from Lindonin's Force Commander is that he's actually moving so far away from the rest of the tacs. Now, Defend has a limited range. It also has a limit on energy use. So once the Force Commander runs out of energy, Defend doesn't work anymore. And even when he has Defend active, the Weird Boy is a potential answer to all of that. Defend does not protect against knockback, so the Weird Boy attacks can knock back those Tactical Marines. He can also use the Warp Vomit to just stun a whole bunch of them. So Space Marine push, working out decently well here. If anything, I don't think there's enough damage going on to the Generator farm, though. They push the Orcs back, but I don't think there was enough conversion of destroyed Generators to really make that a significant push. In fact, we saw some deaths. Yeah, 3 models lost by Lindonin on his tac squads, even with the Defend ability. So I wonder if we might see some advanced healing out of the Apothecary. That's something that I think could be particularly cheesy in team games. And yeah, I mean, really just wondering if we'll see that and what the answer would be from the Orcs if it does happen. So a lot of Daka going in on those Devastator Marines. They will retreat. No bottle lost on them. Pretty luckily for them. Another interesting potential answer. This one, now we're going deeper down the rabbit hole right now. Oh, I was actually going to say, I was thinking of this before I even got it, but he's got the warp head, which means he's got the Foot of Gork ability. He can actually use Foot of Gork on those defend tack blobs as well. It would do actually almost no damage, but they would have a lot of trouble dodging the Foot of Gork, and it would also stun them after the fact. Warboss, meanwhile, even with the extra armor of having the spiky armor and all the health regeneration that gets, he's still struggling a little bit to stay alive with just so much focus fire coming out of the Space Marine army. We see that Weird Boy trying to do some work with those special attacks. Not special attacks, they're actually his regular attacks, although the Weird Boy does have a melee special, which is always funny to see, because you don't normally want your Weird Boy in melee. Big shot going in, actually it misses, but zap. Yeah, the Weird Boy are actually really proving to be one of the answers here to these big tack blobs. Man, so that's why we're seeing... Oh, no, my God, we've actually now got triple Weird Boy. At first I was going to say double, but then I realized every single one of them has a Weird Boy. So much DACA coming out in response. Yeah, this is actually working out beautifully. The Weird Boy really proving to be the first over-dare. Unfortunately, over-daring them right into the firing arc of a devastated Marine squad. Not going to quite work out that well. Here's some Foot of Gork. Foot of Gork there does work. So yeah, that Foot of Gork, not a huge amount of damage, but it does stun. It does knock back even units in retreat. War Vomit goes out. Very unfortunately, only catching the Force Commander. I think we're going to see another War Vomit, though. There's another Warp Vomit, and it stuns all of these Space Marines. And now the focus is on the Force Commander, not any of the attacks. The focus is on the Force Commander. Get him out here, get him off the field, because then there will be no defend for the rest of the attacks. Unfortunately, a lot of health for the Orks is traded out in that process, though. One squad of Shooter Boys nearly getting wiped. 39 hit points, only one regular model and a knob left. I think the Weird Boy now has to go. It does look like at some point Brawler did lose a shooter squad. I'm not quite sure when. I don't think he went for a single shooter into Luda in this game. And it's still a pretty significant victory point hold for our Ork players. They've got the 2-0 Force Commander, or rather this War Boss. I think he'll finish the cap, but he'll probably have to retreat out of there at some point. Down to about half of his health. Yeah, he's got to go here. He doesn't want to actually die. Space Marines will start making a play for the victory points, but they've already just lost so much in the process. Commander Knob doesn't show that he's in retreat here, but I'm pretty sure he is in retreat. All right, we're actually going to have a temporary triple cap for our Space Marine players, trying to see what they can do to come back into this game. Flamer Tactical Marines also trying to just bash the generators of our Ork players, trying to disrupt their economy. But we've already got 2 players going into Tier 3 on the side of the Orks. We've also got Brawler, not quite in Tier 3, but he's not too far away from it. And it is going to be our Ork players making it to Tier 3 before our Space Marine players do. Big Ork blob coming out of here. And on the bottom of the map, ooh, missing some big engagements going on right here. We did have some Sluggas going in with Use Your Choppas, but ultimately still just way too much damage against them. The Weird Boy disruption really is the linchpin of the Ork army at this point. They need the Weird Boys getting that disruption. At this point, this would be another nice Foot of Gork opportunity. But the Space Marines are actually rushing forward. So that, and yeah, I think the rushing forward also helping quite a bit. Librarian just barely gets into melee with the Luda. Luda will get out of here. The Sluggas need to go. So aggressive play, and now we do indeed see that advanced healing coming out of the Apothecary. Again, something very, very powerful in team games, seeing that it doesn't just affect the Apothecary's units, also affects allied units too. And there's just so much healing throughput out of this when you're healing multiple squads in an area, especially squads that are already inherently tanky. So, Commander Knob will go down there. This tack blob proven to be pretty tough to deal with, but there's a stun. Foot of Gork as well for even more stun. We'll stun them even in retreat, knock them over even in retreat. Although it technically stuns them even in retreat, they still are able to just retreat through it. Meanwhile, Swampum Sluggas will be able to finish off a devastated Marine squad right there. These sluggers still in here, but they're getting really, really low on hit points. The sluggers, they just have so little health to work with. But let's see what other prizes they can get. Eventually, they decide to get out of there. Got quite a few models off this Stern Guard veteran squad. We're also going to see a looted tank coming out, so that tech advantage for the Orks going to be pretty oppressive for the moment. Look what Assman has as well. He's got some commandos, and he's got enough red to do a rocks. But I don't think he has enough red for Love Dadaka into rocks just yet. Needs a little bit more. He might have it now. I forget the exact red cost of Love Dadaka. All right, you know, with those have actually been some pretty successful pushes out of our Space Marine players. I think the Stern Guard Veterans purchase have also been incredibly important for them. Much as the Weird Boy purchases have been important for the Orc players, Stern Guard Veterans I think are super important because those Hellfire rounds are going to do massive amount of damage to the sluggers as well as the shooters, much more so than a regular tactical Marine squad ever could. Ooh, Weird Boy trying to get that cap. Eventually means he needs to get off the field, which, again, that's really unfortunate for Crewfinity. He didn't lose his Weird Boy, but it's just going to be more time when he doesn't have him out on the field, when, again, the Weird Boy right now is so important for the success of our Orc players. So we do have the Weird Boy here for Brawler. Throws Zap on them since a lot of these Space Marine units are just really bunched up, and when that Zap spreads, it'll do some damage. We're going to see Looted Tank trying to move away. Looted Tank, I feel like, is yet another really good purchase against what the Orcs are dealing with. That boom shot coming out of the Looted Tank can work very, very well for disrupting multiple tack squads at a time. Here's another Foot of Gork. No, that's a Rocks. Just kidding. Rocks. That one's not even from Assman. That was a raw Rocks. But it does work pretty nicely. I think several tack squads got out of there just barely alive. We actually have triples tack squad out of Lindonin, but they're all down to one model. Actually, if there's one of them that's still at 3. 2 of them down to one model. Sluggers, meanwhile, oh, this might be a wipe on the Sluggers. I think there's a decent chance that this Slugger squad is gone. It's getting pretty close, but it looks like it will make it out alive. Okay. Ooh, okay. So, I mean, there are definitely ways in which our Orc players have been looking strong this game. I think stronger than in last game. Different set of players, of course. But there's a boom shot going in. Oh, it misses. Oh, no. That's rather unfortunate. It's now a triple cap for our Space Marine players. So our Orc players need to get out of there fast. As I've said, I believe this is only a best of 3 series. So our Orc players need to get out of there fast if they want to stay in this series. Otherwise, series will actually be over right here. Okay, big stun from the Warp Vomit. Then the War Boss will close the distance with the Now I'm Angry. Start to get a few models. This War Boss doesn't even have an upgraded weapon. No upgraded weapon whatsoever. He will get stunned out by the upgraded weapon from the Apothecary, that customized Stormbolter. But eventually he's able to shrug it off because there's not enough range damage to focus him down. And so much more supporting damage. Here is that Foot of Gork coming in. Wait a minute. Did that just instantly explode the Devastators? This whole time saying that it wasn't actually doing that much damage there. But I'm pretty sure the Devastators were just gone. There are so many situations where it looks like Foot of Gork doesn't even do that much damage. It could be that in the other situations where I'm seeing Foot of Gork being hit, it's in situations where a squad gets hit by it after retreating because the activation on Foot of Gork is so long. But in that case, that Devastator squad might not have retreated at all. So it might have just taken the full damage. Meanwhile, Terminators here, they're actually content to just stand there and capture that requisition point. They will take very, very little damage from the Shooter Boys. Where are all of those flash kits? It's only Brawler, actually, who has the flash kits, already upgraded to Blastas. These flash kits with the Blastas, they do psychic damage, so they will be quite a bit better against the Terminators than any of the Shooter squads. The looter squad might, meanwhile, right here, shooting at this force commander who was desperately trying to retake this. I think that was an attempted charge, probably to knock back the force commander. However, there the force commander, he's actually still there. He's not getting knocked over because he has defend, but he has so little hit points. Does manage to get the decap and realizes that's all he's going to get. So now victory point being recapped by the war boss. Fights happening on all parts of this map, as we do see. I mean, there's fights going on up here. Shooter boys approaching as knobs get into melee. Knobs getting into melee will do quite well. And what is this? This is Mega Rumbler from the Mech Boy. Stuns out those Terminators, but I think also knocking back the friendly knobs as well. Knobs still kind of in trouble though. Okay, there will be some support for them. We've got shotgun scouts. We'll just knock back the Terminators, sorry, the knobs, as well as the sluggers. And there's going to be some assault Terminators called in as well. Not really a great damage source against the assault Terminators, aside from maybe the knobs, but the knobs are already at half health. They're already trying to target something else. Assman, meanwhile, actually, he's still holding a huge amount of red, which kind of surprises me. At this point, if he's saving up this much red, he's clearly looking for Love Dadaka into rocks, and it's more just a matter of, is he actually going to get a chance to use it? This game might actually end so quickly in favor of the Orks that I don't know if he'll have a chance, even though he has to be looking for that. At this point, at high-level Ork play, if you have commandos, it's almost telegraphed that you're looking for Love Dadaka into rocks. And there it is. It went off somewhere. I can't find it. It's here. Man, that was very, very tough to catch. I actually saw that Assman used up his red. Doesn't actually look like he got a huge amount of value out of it. And his commandos were not there, so he went for a raw rocks. But I think what he got out of it, even though he didn't get much kills, was he just stalled out the attempt to recapture the victory point, because that will be the Orks taking this game, tying up our series to 1-1, and it will only go to one more game since this is a best of 3. Whoever gets 2 games first will win it. Our final game in this Faction War series will take place on Baranus Refinery, the snowy reskin of Calderis Refinery. Our first player going to be Dark Riku, playing as his signature apothecary. Asman, back on that Tech Marine, and finally Lindonin, yet again playing as the Force Commander. Their opponents, our Ork players, Crewfinity, will once again be playing as the Commando Knob. Brawler, going to be on the War Boss. I believe he was playing that last game, right? And next up, it's going to be Assman, and I definitely remember he was indeed playing as the Mech Boy last time. So, big, wide open map we got here. Love the snow effects, too. Oh man, Mech Boy being really, really impressive right here. Bleeds a scout model away from Dark Riku already. Very, very impressive that he just wanted, I mean, he's just trying to do that with his opening cap, and that's part of the oppression that, that teleporting commanders are capable of. Most commanders would not be able to get into that spot fast enough, but just through the ability of the Mech Boy to teleport, and then he just teleports away. He doesn't even suffer any real loss for it. I mean, he traded out some health, but honestly not a huge amount. He still got a little bit more, like about 55 or 60% of his health left. He still has the ability to engage a little bit, and he'll just teleport away once he's threatened again. Meanwhile, in the middle, Scouts going to find themselves having to retreat, facing up just against too many threats. We also don't have any shotguns just because of how early it is in the game. So if any war bosses or sluggers are really, really aggressive, they can kind of just overwhelm the Space Marine players at this time until we see a few shotgun purchases to keep those war bosses, well, really the single war boss, and the sluggers in check. Okay, already we see a shotgun purchase, really just deemed as so essential that Asmon basically makes it the first thing that he gets after having both the Scout Squad and Attack Squad. All right, Tactical Marines now here are in melee. with the Sluggers. Tactical Marines actually got a heal, and this will most likely be a winning fight for the Space Marines. It's more just a question of can they get a model, and they do. Eventually, the Sluggers do have to leave here. Oh, do the Sluggers get out of here alive? They do, but they lose 5 models for it, man. We're going to have to kind of do the math and check and see, was the 5 models that they lost worth the 1 Tactical Marine model that they got? We're going to check that real soon as they start reinforcing. I think it might actually be equal or close to equal. 22. Okay, so it's not equal. So that's actually a positive trade for the Space Marine players. So basically, yeah, it's actually kind of a loss there for Assman in that engagement. Got the 1 TAC model, but losing 5 Slugger models. 100, well, a little bit more than 100 requisition lost on his point compared to only 75 lost for the Space Marine player in that engagement. All right, then, Tactical Marine Squad right here from Asman, also getting a weapon upgrade, this one being the Flamer, using attack ground to attack 2 generators simultaneously. And now kind of not doing anything. All right, there, it'll finish off the generator. Scout Squad, meanwhile, right here, will be getting out of there. Lost 1 of their models. This is a squad of scouts from Riku. Does not have shotguns at the moment. Just regular bolters. Bolter scouts, yeah, I think especially in a team game, I think it's actually very difficult for bolter scouts to really get a huge amount of value from their ranged fire alone. They don't want to be in situations where they're trading against shooter boys. They will lose that trade. They can definitely focus down sluggers and the war boss, but not really as fast as they would like to. Not fast enough to be really, really impactful. Doesn't mean we'll necessarily see shotguns on every single one of these scouts, simply because other upgrades and purchases will be prioritized over it. Once again, we're going to see a war boss with the boss pole, giving more health to his units. And, I mean, that's great for just, again, mitigating the bleed that the Orc players will suffer. Orc bleed is very real and also very unavoidable. But this just kind of mitigates it, as well as that increased suppression, also useful against things like Devastator Marine squads, especially at longer range. Grenade attempt, see if you can finish off the war boss. Doesn't quite hit on the money, and although it did some damage, it won't finish off the war boss. So it's a double cap for our Orc players at this time. Another engagement happening up right here as Tactical Marines sit in cover. I mean, this is green cover, so good cover for them, but do they have all of their models in there? And even if they do, we're going to see aiming what's that to shut down their range damage, and then the sluggers are delivered into melee, and that is a winning fight for them, especially with the supporting fire from the shooter boys. Tactical Marines just could not really deal with that alone, really needed some support. On this side of the map, we're going to see another Luda squad, so there's definitely a lot of Ludas in this series, most of them in Game 1 and from Best Noob alone. Assman and the rest of his Orc players using them a little bit more in moderation, because, you know, it's just everything in moderation is really how things are supposed to go. Storm Boys right here lose a few models of their own, while we see another angle from these shooter boys, but eventually we will just see the Devastator Marines set up again. They will get the suppression on these Orcs, but the Orcs will be able to move out of the firing arc without having to retreat, which is a nice but small win for Brawler. Meanwhile, down here, Orcs will be taking care of this generator farm. We're going to see 1 generator killed. We're probably going to make it 2. We do, of course, have the Shootas, as well as Assman's Mech Boy. Mech Boy does not have the Daka 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 Big Shooter, but I mean, just combined with all the damage from the Shooter Boys, they decide not to commit to anything further. Oh, actually, they'll just move back away from these Tactical Marine squads. That's actually a nice little micro play out of Assman. Doesn't end up getting too much out of it. Now he just tries to bait those Tactical Marines into the firing arc of the Luda. We see another squad of Tactical Marines trying to get around that firing arc, but we see the Sluggers trying to answer that Tactical Marine squad. Now they're actually going for the Apothecary. Now they're switching back to the Tactical Marine squad, but now they've also lost so much health from that Flamer Tac squad that they will have to get out of here. A lot of little things going on in this engagement both ways. Can these Tactical Marines, they're trying to go for an even bigger flank. Not sure if they can fully get around that firing arc, because there is some cover they would have to step over. Eventually, we're just going to see the straight-up retreat from the Luda squad. I think what he realized was even if the Tech Marine and the Tax couldn't get into melee with the Ludas, they still had a flanking angle that they could just shoot at the Ludas in range, and eventually they would do enough damage to scare the Ludas off. Assault Marine's going to jump in. They do hit one of the Shooter Boy squads with that jump in. Stun Bomb will go in to stun the Assault Marines, but at the same time, Shooter Boys will just be retreated out of there, and this will be a Generator Bash opportunity. Generator Bash opportunity for Lindonin, who actually has double Assault Marines. His double Assault Marine squads are here. He's going to be answered, though, potentially by 2 Orc players, but 2 Orc players not really committing their entire armies. Stormboy is going to be looking for the melee on the Force Commander. They do some damage to him, but eventually he does just retreat out of there in time. Assault Marine knockback, so crucial on those Slugger Boys at that time to keep the Force Commander alive. Probably would have been a dead Force Commander otherwise. Meanwhile, it's now a triple cap for our Space Marine players. We're going to see this Razorback move in. Razorback moving in here pretty deep. Doesn't even have extra armor. I don't know, maybe just really good at estimating the tech advantage that it has over our Orc players. I mean, this is Assman over here, who I believe only just got to Tier 2. However, ooh, Razorback needs to be very, very careful about that. We've got this Mech Boy right here throwing out some proximity mines, and those proximity mines will slow vehicles by 75%. Oh no, but the Mech Boy overstays his own welcome, and he will have to go down there. So no answer for this just yet, at least not out on the field soon enough. Beamy Def Gun now for Assman. Needs to get in range, though. Needs to set up. One shot won't kill the Razorback unless the Razorback is already at low health. It'll probably take it down to about 100-ish. Shot will go out, and we're going to see 135, which means it can't survive another shot. Needs to get out of there. Oh, it kind of overstayed its welcome as well, or maybe just didn't microwave fast enough, and eventually was in the range. And also, that's also a reason why. I mean, it's especially if you're going to go that deep. I know there are times when high-level players don't get the extra armor on the Razorback, and I know that they can manage it in a way so that they don't necessarily need it. But at the same time, getting that extra armor just makes it a lot more forgiving. You can survive more shots. You can get it out in situations where you otherwise weren't, which also means you can play a little bit more aggressively with it. So Razorback already got it. And I honestly did not think that Assman would have succeeded in killing the Razorback there. I thought he was going to get the one shot off, and then I thought that the Razorback would have driven out of there to safety. Nevertheless, it still seems like Space Marine's doing quite well. Triple cap, they're getting generator bashes. There's an engagement going on here, but honestly, this one's definitely favoring our Space Marine players. Shooter Boys shooting at ranged. They will force a retreat from the Scouts, but again, like, Scouts shooting directly at Orcs, especially if they're just Bolter Scouts. I mean, in general, I think Shooter Boys are going to win against Scouts in most situations, even Shotgun Scouts, because they're going to outrange the Shotgun Scouts and can put so much pressure on the Scouts before Shotgun Scouts could even get in range. All right, use your Choppas and Ardboys used on these Sluggers, and we don't see any Scouts right here with a Shotgun Blast ready. Okay, but we do have the Devastator Marine Squad ready to get the suppression. That actually doing so much work against the Slugger Boys. Slugger Boys, they're not going to get out of there alive. Oh no, Brawler has actually suffered so many losses here. We could start seeing the beginning of the end to this series. Now, Lindonin has lost his Force Commander. Seeing if a revive is a possibility. It might not be, but it also might not matter. Even if Lindonin is forced to revive his Force Commander, it really just looks like the Space Marine players are in such a stronger position at the moment.
Technology unlock beginning. Adding support structure.
All right, Devastator Marines setting up at the same time as some Assault Marines jump in. Assault Marines jump in when the Weird Boy already has Warp Vomit on cooldown, so there's not a whole lot he can do about these Assault Marines at this time. Okay, Shooter Boys trying to support with that, but with 2 squads of Assault Marines jumping in, there's not much more they can do. It's still a double cap for our Space Marine players. Really looking to close out this series 2-1. Death Dread is coming out here. Big shots coming in. I think that was plasma cannon shot, kind of getting a combination of both enemy units as well as friendly units. Meanwhile, we are going to have some Stern Guard veterans in retreat as well with the approach of this Death Dread. Oh no! That was a huge amount of damage. I think if the Death Dread actually targeted the Tactical Marines, moved forward instead of trying to target the Plasma Devastator, could have probably gotten at least one Tactical Marine model, maybe even two. All right. Storm Boys jumping in. Didn't seem to actually manage to get a stun there. I guess just slightly out of range. Then they attempt to Bomber Boys, kind of knock themselves over a bit, and now it is the Death Dread here by itself. Orb of the Omnissiah will be thrown and will be completely missed. It's actually been a little while since I've seen the Orb of the Omnissiah. This is a grenade ability from the Tech Marine, but it doesn't work against infantry. Instead, you use it against vehicles. It disables them, does damage to them, basically like a Haywire, except it's not a targeted ability, it is a skill shot. Does also work to burn energy from infantry, but otherwise it's primarily an anti-vehicle ability. Okay, you know, at this point, things are looking pretty rough. Oh my god, we've got some Assault Terminators in base. They are stunned. They're going to be taking damage from these Death Dreads. One of these Death Dreads, though, doesn't even have the burners and bits. The Assault Terminators will get out of there, but there's just so much space being created for the Space Marine players, and it's a triple cap against our Orc players. They're soon to be down to double-digit victory points. This is right here, Crewfinity trying to just fight to get out of base. Double Melt-A-Bombs going in, trying to charge away because it knows that the follow-up from the Assault Terminators will finish it off, and I believe this is a dead Death Dread. We're trying to see some support here from Brawler. Brawler does get a model kill on something. Storm Boys will jump in. They will get a stun on some Assault Marines as well as some Scouts. But unfortunately, they will also get knocked down by the shotgun blast from the Scouts. I mean, this might be the Space Marine Army in retreat, but in the end, it's still, I think more was achieved by our Space Marine players. I think the best that our Orc players can hope for is actually finishing off these Terminators, because they probably still don't have their teleport ready. They will be stunned. We've got user choppas on the Storm Boys. That's actually a huge amount of damage, but finally their teleport is ready again. So double cap for our Space Marine players. Orc players have slowed the bleeding, but they still need to make a move, and they still don't have much time. And they're still being forced back. A lot of them are stuck in Tier 2. They're having really difficult answers to these Tier 3 units coming out of our Space Marine players. Meanwhile, over here, we're going to see some Shooter Boys open fire on the Tactical Marines. Tactical Marines more interested in the generators, though. In the middle, we're finally seeing an attempted decap by the War Boss from Brawler. Land Raider Redeemer will be on the way from Dark Riku. Unfortunately for our Orc players, more and more Orcs are just getting forced off. I think a big part of what they're struggling with is being stuck in Tier 2. I guess just suffering lots of generator bashes, taking lots of bleed, not being able to get to Tier 3. Really just mess with them this game. Time is still ticking. We've got a Commando Knob right here. I think he's actually in retreat, even though the indicator isn't showing properly. So there is still no one here contesting this victory point, and we are seconds away from the Orcs being at the point of no return. Death Dread will invariably go down. Another Death Dread moving in. Shooter Boys are the closest, but I think at this point, even if someone can get on this victory point, I think we're at the point of no return, and I think this is our faction war. This one, again, only being best of 3, going in favor of our Space Marine players. That will be it. Space Marines finish this series 2-1 in their favor. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.